Before we begin, here's a question to sit with. Have you ever been watched without knowing it, and done exactly what you would have done if you had known, and discovered later that what you did without an audience was the most important thing you had ever done? Drop your answer in the comments as you listen. Julian Ashford had done this 12 times. Not this exact street, not this exact wallet, not this exact Tuesday afternoon, but the test. The specific, deliberate act of placing his wallet in a public space and watching what happened 12 times across 4 years. The results had been approximately what he expected. 7 people kept the wallet, returned it in at the nearest shop or service counter without making significant effort to identify the owner. 1 called every card in the wallet attempting to reach him. 12 tests. 12 different kinds of people. 12 different pieces of information about how human beings behaved when they believed they were unobserved. On the 13th test, a Tuesday afternoon in November, a side street off Peachtree in Atlanta, a young woman in a coat that had seen better days stopped beside a parking meter, looked at the wallet on the ground, picked it up, and did something none of the previous 12 had done. She sat down on the curb, right there on the sidewalk, opened the wallet, went through it carefully. Not quickly, not with the guilty speed of someone taking stock of what they were taking. Slowly, reading things, looking at things. Then she took out her phone, searched for something, found it, and called a number that was not in the wallet. Julian, watching from the coffee shop window across the street, leaned forward. In 12 tests, nobody had found a number that was not in the wallet. He did not know what to do with that for approximately 30 seconds. Then he walked outside. Some tests tell you what you already knew. You design them to confirm a hypothesis. You run them. The results arrive within the expected range. You file the information and move forward with the specific, satisfied efficiency of someone whose model of the world has been confirmed. This was not that kind of test. This is a story about a test that produced a result the person running it had not designed for. About a woman who did not know she was being tested and passed in a way the test was not built to measure. And about what happens when someone who has been watching the world from a window for 4 years finally has a reason to walk outside. This is part 1. It ends exactly where it needs to end. Before we begin, write "she passed in a way he never expected" in the comments if you are here for this story. Now, let us begin. Julian Ashford was 38 years old and had spent the past 11 years building Ashford Capital into a private equity firm managing approximately $4 billion in assets across technology, consumer goods, and infrastructure. Not the largest firm of its kind, but one with a specific, disciplined reputation for the quality of its decisions and the long-term orientation of its investment thesis. Boston-raised, the only child of 2 academics. A philosophy professor father and a psychology researcher mother, who gave him, through a childhood full of questions rather than answers, a specific kind of training in the examination of human behavior that most people spent entire careers trying to acquire. He did not go into academia. Finance was the most honest laboratory he found. The place where human motivation produced the most measurable outcomes, and where the gap between what people said and what they did was most visible in the numbers. He was genuinely brilliant. He was also, and he was aware of this in the specific way of someone who had examined himself as thoroughly as he examined everything else, somewhat isolated by how he thought. Not lonely, isolated. The specific isolation of someone whose mind operated at a frequency most people found engaging in conversation and exhausting over time. 2 significant relationships in 11 years. Both ended the same way, not through cruelty or dramatic incompatibility, but through the quiet attrition of someone whose primary relationship was always with the question rather than the person. Questions were what he asked. Of markets, of companies, of people. The wallet test began 4 years ago when he dropped his wallet accidentally outside a Chicago restaurant and watched from inside as a stranger found it. That person kept it. But Julian was less interested in the keeping than in the 4 seconds before it, the specific, visible internal negotiation on the person's face. He became interested in those 4 seconds. He designed a test to study them. 12 iterations. For years. 7 keepers. For turners in. 1 caller. And now the woman on the curb who had found a phone number that was not in the wallet. The wallet contained the following. 3 credit cards under Julian Ashford's name. 1 corporate, 1 personal, won a black card whose presence alone communicated significant wealth to anyone who looked. A Georgia driver's license. His name, his Buckhead address. $240 in cash. A photograph, not of a person, of a building. An old brick building in Atlanta's Old Fourth Ward with a for sale sign in the window. A folded business card from a now-defunct Atlanta music nonprofit. Nothing else. No phone number. No way to reach him that was visible. He had designed it that way deliberately, wanting to see whether people would do the additional work of finding a contact, or whether the absence of an easy number would be the friction that converted a potential returner into a keeper. 11 of 12 had not done the additional work. The 12th did something else entirely. Sat on the curb, read everything, looked at the photograph for a long time, searched on her phone, then called. Her name was Amara Osei, 27 years old, Atlanta-born and raised. Specifically the Old Fourth Ward, the daughter of a Ghanaian immigrant father who came to America at 24, built a small construction and renovation business through 11 years of 7-day weeks, and died of a heart attack at 51 when Amara was 17. He left behind a small insurance payout, a half-finished renovation business, and a daughter who had inherited his specific, architectural way of looking at the world. Her mother kept the business going for 2 years after his death, not successfully in the financial sense, but with the stubborn dignity of someone refusing to let the thing her husband built disappear while she could still hold it up. Eventually, in the inevitable way of things that are being held rather than sustained, it came down. Amara was 19, so she worked, not continuously in the same place or field. The pragmatic variety of someone who understood that survival required flexibility. 2 years in construction scheduling, precise in the way of someone who grew up watching a man plan buildings before he built them. A year in event coordination. 18 months in a community development nonprofit, doing grant writing and community outreach with the warm authority of someone who knew the Old Fourth Ward the way you only know a neighborhood you grew up in. These days, she was freelancing. Construction scheduling for a small renovation company, graphic design for 2 small businesses, occasional grant writing for a former colleague, stitching together enough income to cover rent and her mother's supplemental expenses with the quiet financial management of someone who had been doing this since 19. The coat she wore that Tuesday afternoon in November had been her mother's. A good coat. It had seen better years rather than better days. She did not think about the coat. She was thinking about whether 3 weeks was enough time to convert 2 new leads into confirmed contracts. The client meeting she had just left had produced a check she would deposit tomorrow, clearing the gap between what she owed and what she had for approximately that long. She walked past the parking meter. She did not walk past the wallet. Not because she was looking for it. Because Amara Osei noticed things. The way someone notices things when raised by a man who said a building tells you what it needs if you look at it correctly, and who applied that principle to everything, not just buildings. She stopped, picked it up, looked at it, then sat down on the curb. Not because she needed to sit. Because her father had taught her that decisions deserved stillness. You did not decide things while moving forward. You stopped. You looked at the thing completely. You understood it before you chose. The wallet opened in her hands. 3 credit cards. The black card she noted without the reaction most people would have had. As an indicator of wealth, yes, but more usefully as information about the owner, which was relevant to what she was about to do. The driver's license. Julian Ashford. Buckhead address. The specific, composed expression of someone who did not perform for official photographs. $240 in cash. She registered the approximate amount and moved on. The amount was not relevant to what she was going to do. Then the photograph. She held it for a long time. An old brick building in the Old Fourth Ward. She recognized the block, grew up 3 streets away. The for sale sign in the window was old in the photograph, the kind that communicated a property that had stalled or quietly expired. A personal print photograph, carried in a wallet. You did not carry something like that unless the building meant something to you. The business card. She read it carefully. Atlanta Community Music Project. She recognized the name. It had operated in the Old Fourth Ward and closed 3 years ago. When she was 15, she had attended one of its concerts with her father. Everything went back into the wallet. She searched Julian Ashford online. Found the firm in 30 seconds. Found publicly available contact information in 40. Called the main office number. When the assistant answered, Imara gave her name, the location where she found the wallet, and asked for the best way to reach Julian Ashford directly. She wanted to return it. The assistant took her name and number. Then the phone rang again. The voice on the other end identified itself as Julian Ashford. She told him she had his wallet. He told her he knew. He was across the street. She looked up from the curb. Coffee shop across the street. A man walking out of it. Have you ever been watched without knowing it? And what does it feel like to find out that the moment you thought was private was actually the moment someone was paying the most attention? She was still on the curb when he reached her. Did not stand up immediately. He arrived at the edge of the sidewalk, looked down at her, and she looked up at him with the direct expression of someone processing several things simultaneously and not pretending otherwise. She wanted to know how long he had been watching. Since you sat down, he told her. And before that, since you stopped. He had the expression of someone caught, not in a wrong, but in something that required explanation, deciding how to offer it. She named it directly. This was deliberate. The wallet. Not a question. He confirmed it. She stood then. Not with the dramatic energy of someone angry, but with the composed, unhurried energy of someone who had received information and was adjusting their understanding of the situation around it. She handed him the wallet. He had been testing people, she told him. Yes. How many times? 13. Including today. She asked what the first 12 had taught him. 7 out of 12 kept the wallet. 4 turned it in without doing additional work. 1 called every contact in the wallet. A quiet moment. Then she asked where she fit. Different from all 12, he said. Because she sat down. She sat down because that was how she made decisions. Her father taught her that. He noted that her father was an architect, not as a question, but as an observation drawn from how she read the wallet. She had not looked at the cash first. Gone through everything in order. Spent the most time on the photograph. The photograph of the building on Auburn Avenue, she said. He asked if she knew it. 3 streets from where she grew up. Her father had renovated 2 buildings on that block. The one in the photograph was the one he always said was going to be extraordinary when someone fixed it right. Bones were perfect, but the current owners could not see what it could be. Julian went very still. Her father died before anyone fixed it right. She said it simply, without performance. A fact included because it was relevant context. He told her he was sorry. She wanted to know how long he had carried the photograph. For years. Whether he owned the building. He was trying to. The for sale sign in the photograph was old, she noted. The listing had expired 18 months ago, and the owner had not relist. She knew because her mother's renovation business had tried to buy it 6 years earlier and could not get the owner to engage. Her father had believed the owner had a specific buyer in mind and was waiting for them. Julian asked what kind of buyer. Someone who understood what the building actually was, she said, not just what it could sell for. She looked at him directly. Was that him? He was trying to be. She asked why. The Atlanta Community Music Project had been in that building for 11 years before losing its lease, he told her. He paused, looked at the wallet in his hand, looked at the photograph through the leather. The music project was where he understood for the first time that there was more going on in a room than what the numbers said. She went very still. She had been to a concert there. 15 years old. With her father. He looked at her. Her father cried, she said quietly. At a community concert in a brick building on Auburn Avenue. He was not someone who cried. Afterward, he told her the music had touched the specific part of him that buildings could not reach. She said it the way you say something true that has always been true, to someone you have known for 4 minutes. He asked what the concert was. A youth choir from the neighborhood. About 20 kids. She could not remember the name of what they sang, but had never forgotten the sound of it. He was quiet for a moment. Then he told her he had been there too. Not the same concert. He went twice. The first time he was 24, newly arrived in Atlanta, given a ticket by someone, expecting nothing, and left understanding something he could not name for about 6 months. She wanted to know what he eventually understood, that he had been looking at everything from the wrong distance. The November sidewalk was quiet around them. She looked at him for a long time. Then she named it plainly. The wallet was a test. The building was not. No, he agreed. The building was the most genuine thing he had been trying to do in 4 years. She asked what he was trying to do with it. Bring the music project back. Properly funded. In the building it should never have left. She considered this for a moment. Then she told him it was either the most sincere thing she had heard today or the most sophisticated way of telling a story that made someone attractive? He looked at her. She looked at him. Then she said she thought it was both. Something moved in his expression. She picked up her bag. She needed to deposit a check. His wallet had everything in it, including the $240. He said he knew. Before she left, she asked him something. He had done this 12 times before, 13 including her. What had he actually been looking for? A quiet moment. He was not sure he had known until today. She waited. He thought he had been looking for someone who would sit down. A lot of people might sit down, she told him. No, a lot of people might hesitate. Sitting down was different. Sitting down meant you had decided the thing deserved your full attention before you decided what to do with it. Her father taught her that. He said he knew. She picked up her bag again and mentioned the building on Auburn Avenue. Her father's renovation notes were in a box at her mother's house. He had made notes about every building he ever worked near or wanted to work on. His notes about that building went back 15 years. She said it while turning, the way she had been taught, looking at the thing as you leave it rather than walking away from it. He called her name. She stopped. He wanted to see them. The notes. That depended on what he was going to do with the building, she told him. He asked what it would take for the answer to be yes. Tell me the truth about why you left the wallet. He had not trusted anyone. 11 years of rooms, full of people telling him what they wanted him to hear. He had built a very good system for analyzing what companies said versus what their numbers said, but no equivalent system for people. The wallet was an attempt to see people when they thought no one was watching, to find out if anyone behaved the same way in private as they did in the rooms. She asked what he found. That most people did not. And her. He described exactly what she had done. Sat on the curb on a Tuesday afternoon with $240 in her hand, gone through a stranger's wallet like it deserved care, looked at a photograph of a building for 2 minutes, then found a phone number that was not in the wallet because leaving the wallet without a contact was simply not acceptable. That was who she was in private. Yes, she said. That was who she was in the rooms too. Yes. Then the answer was yes, he said. She could see the notes. She told him she had not asked a question. He said she had implied one. She looked at him, then picked up her bag. She would call his office when she had thought about it. He told her he would be there. She said he was always watching from that coffee shop. Not always, he said. Just today? Something moved in the corner of her mouth. She walked away. He stood on the sidewalk watching her go and thought about what his philosophy professor father would have said about a test that produced a result the test was not designed to measure. That is when the real data arrives. Back in the coffee shop. Same table by the window. A coffee he ordered and did not drink. He sat with it. 12 previous tests had produced cold, specific data about human behavior under observation. 7 keepers. For turners in. 1 caller. Interesting in the aggregate. None of them had produced anything in him personally except the analytical satisfaction of a confirmed hypothesis. Imara Osei produced something else. Not because she returned the wallet, that was the baseline. Not because she sat down, though that had stopped him. Because of the photograph. She knew the building. Grew up 3 streets away. Her father had renovated 2 buildings on the same block and said the one in the photograph had perfect bones. She attended a concert in that building at 15 with a father who did not cry, and who cried. And her father's renovation notes. 15 years of a builder's observations about a building Julian had been trying to acquire for 4 years, were in a box at her mother's house. He thought about the geometrically improbable coincidence of the thing. Thought about whether it was coincidence. Thought about what his psychology researcher mother would have said about the assembled pattern. A building that meant something, a man who made notes about it for 15 years, a daughter who knew its bones by inheritance, a wallet test run 12 times before arriving at the 13th iteration on the specific block where the building's shadow fell. His mother would have said the data does not care whether you believe in coincidence. It simply is. He looked at the wallet in his hand. Thought about a 27-year-old woman on a curb going through a wallet like it was something that deserved care. Thought about what she said. I think it is both. The most sincere thing or the most sophisticated way of making someone attractive. Both. She named it without blinking. He had met many people who knew how to say true things. Far fewer who said them without organizing the saying for effect. She had simply said it. Like a building that told you what it was if you looked at it correctly. He got up from the table, went back to the office, called the owner of the building on Auburn Avenue. The same call made 4 times in 4 years, The same conversation that always went the same way. This time it went differently. The owner had been waiting for someone who actually understood what the building was for. Julian told him he understood it now. The owner asked what changed. Julian told him he met someone who grew up in its shadow. The check was deposited. Then home. Her apartment. A one-bedroom in Old Fourth Ward she had lived in for 3 years, with a kitchen window looking out at a courtyard where a single large oak tree grew in the middle of concrete. The specific, determined vitality of something that decided to be there and stayed long enough that the concrete simply adjusted. She looked at the oak tree, thought about the wallet, not the money. She had barely registered the money because it was not relevant to what she had done with the wallet. What stayed with her was the photograph. The man who carried a photograph of a building in his wallet for 4 years. What he said about the music project, that it was where he understood for the first time that there was more going on in a room than what the numbers said. She thought about her father, his renovation notes. 15 years of observations about buildings he worked near, worked on, wanted to work on. Observations about structure and material and potential and what a building could be if someone saw it correctly. The architectural love language of a man who read buildings the way other people read faces. His last entry about the building on Auburn Avenue was written 6 months before he died. She knew this because she read every notebook after he died. Not to find anything specific. Simply to be in his voice for as long as she could. 8 years of carrying what she found in those notebooks without knowing exactly what she was carrying it for. Sitting at the kitchen table now, looking at the oak tree, thinking about a test designed to watch people when they thought no one was watching. Would she have done anything differently if she had known? No, that was the answer. She sat on the curb because the wallet deserved her full attention before she decided what to do with it. She read the photograph because her father taught her that a building tells you something if you look at it correctly. She found the phone number because there was no acceptable way to leave the situation without one. She said what she said on the sidewalk because the things she said were true. None of it was performed. And Julian Ashford, the man who spent 4 years watching people from coffee shop windows to find out who they were when nobody was watching, had watched her be exactly who she was. She did not know what that was going to produce. She knew what it had already produced in her. Something starting to move. The way something moves when it has been sitting still for a long time and has finally found the reason to start. She picked up her phone, looked at it, set it back down. Not ready to call yet, but close. Julian Ashford left his wallet on the street for the 13th time on a Tuesday afternoon in November. He had done it 12 times before. He was looking for something. He did not know exactly what until a 27-year-old woman in her mother's coat sat down on a sidewalk curb, went through the wallet like it deserved care, stopped at the photograph of a building she recognized, and found a phone number that was not in the wallet, because leaving the situation without one was simply not acceptable. She passed the test, not in the way he designed the test to be passed. In the way that told him the test had been asking the wrong question. He was no longer interested in what people did with his wallet. He was interested in the woman who had known, from a photograph, that his building had perfect bones. She was not ready to call yet, but she was close. And this is where part 1 ends. Right here, at the edge of the thing that is starting to move. Right, she passed in a way he never expected, if this story found you today. Right, I need part 2. If you already know you are coming back. Like, share and subscribe. Part 2 is coming. Hit the bell so you never miss it.